Hi, welcome to the free training today where I'm going to teach you 3 things that are stopping you, and they're simple things, but 3 things that are stopping you from really having a great Mormon mixed faith marriage. Okay, I want to share my screen with you so you can see some slides I put together to help us walk through this. All right, you should see it now. Make it full screen. Okay, so we're going to talk about, like I just said, 3 simple things stopping you from having a great Mormon/LDS mixed faith marriage. And these things are stopping you fundamentally from creating more connection, support, love, and respect. So let me tell you a little bit about me. So my name is Brooke Booth, and I'm a certified life coach. I was a practicing attorney for years where I practiced complex commercial litigation. And I have 4 kids. You see here, the ages today range between 7 and 17. This year, we also celebrate 20 years of marriage. But my faith transition happened about 4 or 5 years ago, 2017, 2018, when I had my faith transition and we entered our own Mormon mixed faith marriage. And it was hard, and it was jolting, and it wasn't a whole lot of fun. So the 3 things I'm going to share with you today, I have seen on a personal level and I have seen on a professional level. And if you can really recognize and use and clean these up from your Mormon mixed faith marriage, you are going to be light years ahead in your marriage. You're going to really be able to leapfrog through some of the weeds or the obstacles in a mixed faith marriage. So I want to, before we jump into the 3 things, I want to make a note here. I use the word Mormon a lot. It's my language. It was the language of my childhood and frankly, all my adulthood. I grew up in the Gordon B. Hinckley era. He was the prophet for so long when I was so very much active. And so it's the language because it's my heritage, it's my vernacular. I mean, absolutely no disrespect when I use that word. I know that there's different messaging now around that word, and that's wonderful, but this is how my tongue talks. And so this is the word I'm going to use. All right, let's talk about the very first thing that it can be stopping you from having a really good marriage. This belief system that a mixed faith marriage is hard, not ideal, and like a less than marriage. I want to teach you something really important here about this. Your brain is designed, wired, created, however you want to talk about it, in a very particular way. And so what it does is it tries to prove you right. If you believe a mixed faith marriage is hard or not ideal or less than, your brain is going to try to find all of the evidence why that's true and correct for you. You are literally in the course of a day bombarded with probably hundreds of thousands of pieces of information, and your brain sifts and sorts through them, and it decides, what information it wants to present to you. And a lot of times it's going to sift and sort through that, and it's going to present the information to you that supports your current beliefs. And I call this the catch-up paradox. So my husband will often go to the fridge, and in his mind, he's thinking we're out of ketchup. That's his belief system. Opens up the fridge. Hey, Brooke, can you put ketchup on the grocery list? Or where's the grocery list? We need to buy ketchup. Even though it is top shelf, center position, there sits, the jar of Heinz. He's convinced we're out of ketchup, and so he cannot see the ketchup right there in front of him. This looks like when you buy a new car and all of a sudden you see them everywhere when you're driving around. It's the same idea. It's cognitive bias. So if you tell your brain there's a problem here, your brain is going to prove you right. So think about that in the terms of your mixed faith marriage. If you really believe that your marriage is hard, not ideal, and less than, but you want a great mixed faith marriage, you're going to have to prove yourself wrong to get what you want. If your brain will find all the evidence for why your mixed faith marriage is hard, less than challenging, and completely ignore all of the reasons, all the good points, because that's what the brain does. It's very efficient. It ignores all of the data points that don't support its current belief. That's the catch-up paradox. So again, I'm going to say this. If you really believe this, and a lot of us do, I certainly did, you're going to have to prove yourself wrong to have a great mixed faith marriage. I know many of you were probably taught that a mixed faith marriage is hard, and you've probably received lessons why it's challenging. But here you are. I'm guessing you're here listening to this because you're now in a mixed faith marriage. So I want you to consider that and redecide, is that what you want to keep believing about your current situation? Because if you do, pretty good chance the catch-up paradox is going to kick into play here, and you're going to have to prove yourself wrong to have anything but a hard marriage, anything but a not ideal marriage. So if you think about that, if you start to cultivate the idea that a mixed faith marriage can be okay, fun, enjoyable, anything else, your brain is going to be able to start finding the data points to support that. And if you don't, then you'll never be able to see the catch up right in front of you. And when I say that, I mean the good points, the things that are great about your mixed faith marriage, even though they might be right in front of you. When you focus on the problems, you fundamentally undermine connection, support, and respect in your marriage. Okay. Number 2. This is something I hear as well. Okay. The transitioning spouse, the one who's having the faith transition, will often say, it's my fault. I've ruined this. The believing spouse will often think or say, I should have done more. And this is a place I find many of my clients. So let's talk about these and what they can create for you. Because this one's a little bit trickier for people to see. Because when you're telling and you're really believing it's my fault or I should have done more, what's ultimately happening is you're believing that you're responsible for your spouse's decisions, thoughts, emotions, reactions, any number of things, and vice versa. When we take responsibility for others' emotions and their emotional choices, this often undermines a relationship. I mean, codependency is what it's called, if you were to start doing research on this and on the internet. When your spouse's emotions, responses, actions, thoughts are your fault, now you are the problem. And this usually leads to shame. And when there's shame involved, and I should say it's the same thing when I should have done more, it means you're the problem. This is fundamentally something you could have prevented. Shame happens, and when shame is now active, we rarely show up as our best selves in our relationship. Okay, but let's go back and talk about the codependency piece a bit more too. Codependency means when you're responsible, when you think you're responsible, you never actually are, for another's emotions, and they're dependent on you emotionally. So that it creates this, that's the dependence. They're dependent on you for feeling happy, fulfilled, anything. And it's your fault. They're dependent on you if they're feeling disappointed, sad, etc. And it's a two-way street. Codependency can be a two-way street. And what codependency does, and it's my fault, I should have done more, these just lead into that so easily, is it creates the environment where control and manipulation start to come and be more present, be more prevalent. Because, if it's your fault, if they need to be different than they are so you can feel good, control and manipulation are a natural response to that. So when you say it's my fault, or I ruined this, or I changed the rules, or it's your fault, You've ruined it. You've changed the rules. What you're effectively saying is, I can't be happy until you're different. I can't be safe until you're different. You can't be happy until I'm different. You can't be safe until I'm different. This is going to really cause some strain to your marriage. And I hear you. You're probably saying, Brooke, look, if I had stayed in the church, then they wouldn't be sad and disappointed. Or if I would have, gone to the temple more, this wouldn't have happened. And maybe. But I think it's important to consider, why is it a problem if your spouse is sad or disappointed? Like, it's a really interesting question to consider. When you live your life solely to avoid others feeling negative emotions, you're going to burn out. But even more importantly, what you're doing is you're trying to control things you fundamentally do not have control over. And then it's very frustrating because you fail a lot and it just doesn't work. And that ultimately causes more harm to a relationship than hurt. Others may want to feel sad, like your spouse may want to feel sad in the face of a faith transition. And that's okay. It's okay to feel sad. It's a beautiful part of being human. I want you to consider, and this is part of what really helps address codependency, is if it's okay for your spouse to feel a whole range of emotions, sad, disappointment, anger, sadness, frustrations, that their emotions are not problems to be solved. And in reverse, it's okay for you to feel these emotions. This is part of the human experience. Your emotions are not problems for your spouse to solve. When we try to manage our spouse's thoughts and emotions about the faith transition, about church, about marriage, about all of these things, we're sending them these messages like, you can't handle your own emotions. You're not capable of making decisions and managing your own thoughts and emotions. And again, these undermine a relationship. Your spouse's emotions, they're not problems to be fixed, ever. Trying to control and manage your spouse's emotions will block connection, support, and respect. I want to say something here. This is like a little bit of caveat, a little bit of aside. What I'm talking about is in the context of a relationship without abuse. If you're in an abusive situation and that is happening, I would suggest you seek therapy. Okay, let's talk about the third simple thing that might be blocking you from having a better mixed faith marriage. And it's this belief. These are my three oldest. These are my three daughters. And this is a very common belief I see. The kids will be confused. Like I said, I hear this one a lot. I certainly believed it. I want you to consider the catch-up paradox at place here as well. If the belief system is that the kids will be confused, your brain, what's it going to do? It's going to find evidence why this is true, and it's going to ignore the evidence why that may not be true. So I see this all the time in mixed faith marriage. Like, we find reasons for why the kids are suffering. We miss seeing the catch up all the time. We miss seeing why they're just fine, or why maybe they're doing even great. So it can be really helpful, if this is something that's really heavy on you and really challenging for you to work through, to ask yourself some different questions. How might this not be harming them? What might they be learning that could be helpful and beneficial for them? What could be the benefits of being a child in a mixed faith marriage? And I'm not saying these are going to be easy questions to consider, but they're important to at least sort of wiggle around and consider and open the door to, because when you believe kids will be confused, that's going to cause you so much pain. And you're in a mixed faith marriage already. And if this is now the inevitable thing that will happen, it's going to, if it was me and this was my belief and I was like, I'm stuck in this marriage, my kids are going to be confused, I would probably feel very frustrated. And when I'm very, very frustrated, I do not act well. I'm short, I'm snippy, I'm aggressive, or I'm super withdrawn and I'm checking out and I'm just abdicating all my parenting and marriage stuff. And that is not how I want to be showing up in my marriage. And I'm guessing that's not how you want to be showing up in your marriage. And that's why it's really important to look at these types of things happening. Are you believing the kids will be confused? What's it creating for you? And if it's creating something that's undermining your marriage and causing more disconnection, ultimately, you need to start really questioning that belief system. Is it even true? And I want to offer you another way of looking at kids impacted by a mixed faith marriage. And this is radical. So if it works for you, great. If it doesn't, that's okay too. Like, what if this was an opportunity to teach your kids that this family is a place where everybody's accepted? That this family is a place where we don't put conditions on you being welcome and loved and part of the unit. That mom and dad have different values and opinions, and they're still able to emotionally connect. So if you, child, have different values and opinions, you're still welcome here and you're still able to emotionally connect. I think that can be a very valuable gift we offer our children, and it can be a byproduct of being in a mixed faith marriage. You are loved no matter what, and you are respected no matter what. That can be a powerful thing we teach our kids in the context of a mixed faith marriage. I'm not saying there's no boundaries and there's no rules, but what I'm saying here is the underlying fundamental premise of the family culture is love and acceptance. And that has real impact on kids. Okay, these are the three things that can really cause you to stub your toe in your new or old mixed faith marriage. And they can really stop you from creating love, connection, and support. So that might be your very next question. Like, what can you do to create more love, connection, and support? We've talked about what not to do. I remember after my faith transition, this is my husband, Daniel, here. Our marriage was a mess. Like, we were not smiles. We were not all cuddles. It didn't look anything like this. I remember going out to eat at a restaurant, a beautiful, lovely restaurant, and it was tense. It was tense. It was not pretty. I think the waiter was more than happy to see us leave. And it takes work to create more connection, more respect, more love, and all of these things that you want. And I want you to hear me when I say this. If I can do it, you can do it. If I can work through this, you can work through this. But it does take work. So what you do to create more love, connection, and more connection, respect, and support, and love, we can throw that one in too for sure, is coaching is the tool I use. Coaching is the tool that I have been able to successfully use to, one, recognize the things blocking me from having a great mixed faith marriage, and then actively creating the things that help me create connection, that help me feel respect, that help me show up in a supportive way. Coaching has helped me unpack and work through the things stopping me, and then, like I said, really build up and dial in and get masterful at the things helping my marriage. So if you can clean up the things stopping you from having a great mixed marriage and the things really stopping you from showing up as your best self in your marriage, and then if you can put in the pieces to really get things going well, I guarantee you're going to have a fundamentally different relationship. You are going to have a relationship that is full of connection, that is full of love, and that is full of respect. So much of the work is stopping the things that are causing us to not show up how we want and starting to do the things that do. So this is what I teach. Like, this is the work I do. And I want to tell you a little bit more about it if you're interested in learning about that. I offer a group program. There are two ways to work with me, one-on-one, but those slots are off, they're all full right now. I don't have any. And that changes over time, but usually those are full. And I want to focus more on this training about the group program. And I call it Loving and Strengthening Your Mormon Mixed Faith Marriage. And I call it that way on purpose because, yes, we've got to strengthen the marriage, but I also want you to learn to love your marriage. I want you to learn to delight in being in a Mormon mixed faith marriage and not just tolerate it. And so in my group coaching program, we talk about all the things you need to learn and develop and figure out to have a mixed faith marriage you can love and strengthen. And I want to give you a little bit of a list, and it's more than this. I know this is a lot, but this program is rich. You'll learn how to let go of fear being in your mixed faith marriage. It's possible. You learn how to have hard conversations without anger or withdrawing. You learn how to make decisions together that honor both partners, how to communicate directly and clearly, how to not react from out of control emotions, how to use your emotions to create the relationship you want, how to move on from the grief and pain from a faith transition, how to set goals and really build your marriage, how to create a new foundation for your new mixed faith marriage, and how to fall in love again. These are things you can expect. Here are the details. I want you to know this. One, you can sign up directly for my group coaching program, and I'll show you the page there in a minute. But the details are this. It starts in September. I do it just a few times a year. This is not something I offer very frequently. It's a 12-week course, 1 hour a week for 12 weeks. And for the September one, we're going to do it on Thursday nights, 4 p.m. Pacific, 5 Mountain, 6 Central, and 7 Eastern. Now, if you have further questions, this is the best place to go. Go to my website or you can email me, but I want to offer you a few things here that might answer some of your question. So if you go to this website, you can sign up directly for the program. Working with me in this group coaching program is the most affordable way. So if you're like, is this affordable? This is by far the most affordable way of working with me. And hear me on this too. This program is for anybody. You don't need to show up with your spouse. You can do this with them or solo. Working on your mixed faith marriage is something you can do all on your own and make tremendous improvements. If both you and your spouse are interested in joining, you both sign up as, each grab your own spot. And it will be fantastic for you to both be in there, because then you'll be able to, there's a little bit of synergy with that. But I want you to know, if your spouse is not interested, this is still absolutely effective and absolutely impactful. One person is always enough to make very significant changes. If both sign up, great. That's great too. Okay, this is a small group. I want you to know that. This is a select small group. I do not let it get any bigger than 10 people. Everything is highly confidential. That's part of the agreement. I have a very simple agreement, but part of that is that everything needs to remain confidential. Every week I'll send you a replay so that you can experience the teaching and the coaching that go on in the call. And then you can also re-listen to it within the next 7 days. And I also wanted to tell you this. This is one of the pretty amazing benefits of working with me, is I have a workbook that I created, packed full of some of the best coaching tools I have used on my own marriage and with my clients. And it's all here in this workbook. And this is a workbook. You write things, you learn things, you practice things, exercises, worksheets, all in here. You get this too. I mail it to you. And this is the extra bonus. If your spouse is not interested in joining, I still mail you 2 copies of the workbook if that's something you want. You get 2, regardless of whether your spouse joins or not. Excuse me. So if you have any questions, you're like, oh, I still have questions about this. That's okay. Go to my website, brookeboothcoaching.com/group. And you can go there. You can go to the homepage. It doesn't matter where you go. And you can schedule a free call with me. I offer just a few. I have limited slots, but I've opened up as many as I can. And I'll be happy to answer your questions if you have more questions beyond this. If you're like, Brooke, I'm good to go. Go to this place. This is the website, and you'll be able to sign up on the waiting list and get on, the list for the next group coaching program that's happening. That might be September, that might be January, that might be June. It changes, but go ahead and sign up here for the next group coaching program. And what I'll do is you'll receive an email from me shortly with all the information that you will need. All right, if you have any questions, reach out to me via email or grab one of my free calls. And I hope to see you soon in my group coaching program where we can really start to clean up the things you're stubbing your toe on and start creating the foundation where you can have a really great Mormon mixed faith marriage. Because hear me on this, it's great to have a good marriage. And it's actually even great to have an okay marriage, but it does not compare to a great marriage. It's like compound interest. It's exponentially different. And I want you to know if Daniel and I can do this, so can you. All right, wishing you the best. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing and I wish everybody the best.